welcome to the fourth and final review of the session, and also our final review of the season, and I guess by extension, the year. You know, once again, these things are much less impressive when the year is about 3 weeks left.
Something like
You know,
that.
Mm-hmm.
and up this time is Sam and Max Save the World, or Sam and Max Save the World Remastered. Like the actual game itself doesn't call it self remastered, but it is a remastering. Um, as the you know this is a game, this is a game series. However you want to frame it, a bit more on that a little later. But this is a bunch of episodes that came out in between 2006 and 2007, and that was on one of the earlier versions of the Telltale tool. This has been updated to the most recent version. I don't know if that's before the original Telltale collapsed or what new Telltale is doing. Um, I've just seen in the notes that it's the latest version of it. Um, I suppose another thing about being one of the earlier titles in the Telltale catalog, uh, this isn't a buggy fucking mess. I'm like, well, that was one of the fucking big problems with a lot of the latter day Telltale releases.
Mm-hmm.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy and Batman and what have you. They were just a pile of technological messery, owing to the fact that the Telltale tool is, you know, um, dating back to
Well, it was
2005.
multiple generations old at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah. Like
It didn't even have
Telltale
its own
Tool.
hair physics.
Yeah, yeah. The Telltale Tool debuted in 2005, powering Telltale's first game, Telltale Texas Hold'em. In fact, that particular game was a demonstration of what the Telltale Tool could do. Um, my point is, you at least on PC. I know this game has also been released on Nintendo Switch, but we didn't get it. We all got PC codes, so couldn't really tell you how it runs on the Nintendo Switch. Um, Also worth noting, this is not the first time this particular package has hit a Nintendo platform. Um, Back in the day, this game first hit the Nintendo Wii. In fact, that's where it got the moniker Sam and Max Save the World. To differentiate it by, at that point, the second season had come out. And, they needed something, I guess, a bit snappier than Sam and Max Season 1, which was the original title of the game. Uh, as far as Sam and Max itself, oh boy, that's a whole fucking legacy of multimedia appearances. Like Sam Max got started in comic books. Um, he had the duo had a very famous LucasArts game, Hit the Road. Uh, they had an animated television series on Fox, like about 1996, 1997. And they had like other assorted cameos and stuff. There was a lot of Sam and Max stuff before this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really not going to get into the details of that history because that's a lot of stuff on its own. And not a lot of it relates to this particular package. Not freely. Like, there are references to previous installments of, like it references their first Mooncaper, for example, and the Hit the Road adventure game in a couple of pictures. But this was very much a clean break, so to speak, into, I suppose, what we can call the Telltale continuity. Because another facet of this particular series is they couldn't use characters that were created for other media
Oh, that's
appearances.
always a bitch.
Yeah, like for example, the geek couldn't show up. That led to some interesting dynamics here because, for example, the character of Bosco. The character of Bosco has been there since I think the comic books, but he was allowed in because you only saw Bosco's inconvenience store from the outside, not from the inside until the Telltale games. He could be there because he wasn't technically a character beforehand. Um, and the commissioner also shows up because, once again, he's not even a voice. He's just somebody who fucking Sam talks to on the phone. And like I said, there's a lot to unpack in terms of even this particular sliver of Sam and Max, because within context of when it got released in back about 15 years ago, the Sam and Max sequel, like Sam and Max Freelance Police, I think it might have been called. It was going to be Sam and Max 2. That was canceled about 2004. So a whole bunch of people who worked on this game, they helped set up Telltale Games. But it would actually take a bit of time before they got to Sam and Max. This was actually their third project after the Telltale Texas Told'em and their first episodic series, Bone. Unfortunately, Bone was not a success.
This is based on the Jeff Smith comic Bone.
Yep.
Kind of a shame. That's a really good comic.
Yeah, and I think the first 2 episodes were based off of comic book stories. It's just the series did not find commercial success, at least enough to continue the series. Something that wouldn't actually plague Telltale until they collapsed in the middle of The Walking Dead, the final season. And indeed, Sam and Max Save the World is notable for being, first of all, considered to be like the first successful episodic game series ever, or at least of that particular notoriety. I mean, I suppose it depends on how you want to frame like Dot Hack. Pretty sure Dot Hack was pretty successful. Was successful enough to get a sequel series.
Also, Dot Hack was the ridiculously multimedia
I know
storytelling thing, and also episodic adventure games is a bit different than episodic JRPGs.
Right, but we're talking about the state of episodic gaming. We're coming off some very high profile failures like the Sin episodes, Half-Life 2, the Half-Life 2 episodes. Granted, when this came out, we were still getting like Half-Life 2 episode 2. It's just the Half-Life episodes were already missing deadlines and shit. They were being subjected to Valve time, basically. This is before we didn't get any more episodes, but they were already considered to be a failure of the episodic model. Part of the success.
Part of the benefit, part of the point of episodic is usually that they come out on a regular basis so that you can follow it and keep track of stuff and have a distinct time to look forward to.
Yeah, and the original game was also backed by the very lost and forgotten GameTap service. I think
rest in peace, GameTap.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about GameTap before, but that was about a good 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Did we
briefly.
talk about it just recently in the context of cloud gaming?
Probably. I think we did, because GameTap was basically the forerunner to all of what you see right now. And in some ways, GameTap is still a superior experience. At least the Turner days were. Back when they were really backing, because GameTap was not just video games. It had the backing of the Turner section of Time Warner. And that meant, you had fucking Space Ghost on there. They did a 10th anniversary animated series for Tomb Raider. They did a whole bunch of documentaries for various games and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's just, it turns out having the Netflix of gaming in, say, 2006, 2007 wasn't the money pot it would be today.
I mean, Netflix wasn't even the Netflix of Netflix yet at that point.
It was starting at that point, but yeah, it was still more known for its DVDs. You know, and GameTap had other problems. You know, like it got a few games day and date, but a lot of the stuff was kind of old. But Sam and Max was their first big original.
Mm-hmm.
GameTap at least provided partial funding because GameTap, being a product of television executives, was very invested in the episodic model. That's something that they understood, television. And, you know, while maybe not a great success for GameTap, hard to say, you know, I guess, like, I'm not sure if, like, the success of season 1 led to season 2, but, or if it was a 2-season deal, but both of those seasons were powered by GameTap. You can see them in the original titles. Later on, the packages were compiled for Steam and various consoles, WiiWare, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. And like I said, that's when they gained the current subtitles. And also worth noting, since this is an earlier Telltale game, it's more in line with traditional point-and-click adventure games. In fact, it's very in line. Telltale really wasn't starting to break out of that mold until, well, starting with The Devil's Playhouse. That was the first game, at least the first one I played, where they changed the interface to a fully 3D set that worked better with controllers, but was a nightmare for point and click. Like, but this, you point, you click. It generally works, though it being a fully 3D engine. There's going to be some, you know, awkwardness that's not present in a completely 2D adventure game. But it, you know, it's, in terms of its design and structure, it's about as traditional as you can get. You know, you point, you click. Sam and Max will remark on various things. You find items. You use items on to solve puzzles. Worth noting, this game is a lot easier than even, say, a LucasArts adventure game, because not only do you not die, but the first package here is 6 individual episodes, among the longest that Telltale has ever done for a season. And it kind of shows. Like, episode 3 is regarded universally as the weakest of the bunch, because the Toy Mafia was pretty awful. And the game, and that particular episode was weak on the puzzles. But point of order is, each episode is about 2 to 3 hours long. So you've got about 3 set pieces at most. And you've got very limited environments, a lot of repeated environments, like every episode has Sam and Max's neighborhood, like the office, Sybil's, various Sybil's office, the Bosco's inconvenience store, and that's about it. Other places would be added in future seasons, but and where you go is generally the big change. There's a lot of detail here that I won't get into for the sake of spoilers. And let me see here. As an adventure game, Very pretty solid. Um, I think the Sam and Max series got better. I think season 2 was in general an improvement. Season 3, I have very complicated feelings for, but that has more to do with the tone and the direction that took. Um, like that got fucking dark, and I can't say I really appreciated it because Sam and Max has always been a very light-hearted series, very over-the-top series, not necessarily for kids, even though it got a Fox Kids television show, and they kind of had to tone them down. But you know, Sam and Max are kind of over-the-top personifications of American police.
Max is the kind of character that doesn't really work in if you're taking stuff too seriously.
Well, for example, like there's a lot of casual mentions of police brutality by the duo.
Mm-hmm.
It's played for laughs. It's not meant to be taken that seriously, but you could see why that's a fucking problem here in the year of 2020.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this is actually not that particular set of comedy interactions, but this game has been toned down from its roots. In fact, there was kind of a minor flap about the game being censored or changed, or however you want to define it. Like there's a whole list of changes here. For example, altering a fate name character goes Underwind disguised as an exaggerated stereotype of a Frenchman. Honestly, that was not done very well, mainly because they recorded Bosco's dialogue, or re-recorded, but they didn't re-record Sam and Max's. So they still use the original name, and it gets pretty goddamn confusing. Because, he still calls them, sissy pants, which is not the harshest insult, but it's also the exaggerated French stereotype. Like, there's a lot of mid 2000s politics and pop culture stuff here. Like, the French as cheese eating surrender monkeys, as they've been called. That was not a new stereotype in 2006, but that was very ingrained in the Iraq War. We were pissed off that France didn't go along with that idea. To the point where we were renaming fucking French fries as freedom fries.
Oh, good
Not
lord.
for super long, but
No, but that was kind of the mentality going on in that, in 2006 and 2007. There's a lot of references to the war on terror, to the Iraq war, to the Bush administration, and so on and so forth. Once again, like some of the political humor probably aged like warm milk, considering we're just coming off 4 years of the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that a lot of the humor has been cleaned up. Another example is removing a joke about a character having a sex change. Yeah, that was thrown around a lot more casually 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Moving a mention of a special needs children in a joke. I don't think that was kosher even then. Altering a joke when a character suggests one of the avatars people can use on the internet includes a hot young 15-year-old girl curious about the adult world and willing to experiment.
Yeah, no.
Oh, God.
Characters no longer using the slang foo, typically associated with Black and African American subcultures and stereotypes. Not completely. I did hear a couple of mentions of that, removing mentions of the skinheads in a joke. I don't think that they were ever directly called. They were the skin bodies. But I suppose the weirdest one is altering the license plate that alluded to a character being a drug dealer. They're now an arms dealer. Okay, that's
Okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, here's another of the times change, altering a joke about tear gas being able to clear out a room full of militant college students. Now
Ooh,
no longer being a joke. Like I said, some of this shit has not aged well at all. You know, though perhaps the biggest change is the voice actor for Bosco. And okay, apparently the original voice actor was white, and the new voice actor is black. That's how that works. You know, and of course, gamers being the trash that they are, they lost their shit. I mean, it's nothing compared to what's going on with Cyberpunk 2077.
That's another kettle of fish.
Though I wouldn't be surprised if fucking death threats, harassment, that whole fucking kettle of fish happened to Skunkape Games. If it didn't, good. But, it's just fuck you if you do that. No matter what the fucking game. It's a fucking video game. I don't have to rant about this anymore. Just, if you're doing that kind of shit, no matter who the developer, publisher, personality, I don't fucking care. You're fucking human garbage, and you need to be arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the biggest outside of those particular changes, the biggest change is the graphical fidelity. Now, the PC version was able to go widescreen at its highest settings back in the day, but by default, it's like, it's within line of modern sensibilities. Like 1080p, I don't think this goes to 4K. I don't have a 4K setup, so couldn't really test that.
Mm-hmm.
4K is at least 2 more Ks than you actually need.
And, the game does look significantly better, although the game looks a lot brighter in general. Like, like the lighting isn't quite there compared to the original. But in general, it looks a lot better than the original game series. Once again, 15 years will do that. It's just, there's only so much you can do to assets that were made in the mid 2000s. So,
especially when the game is still running on an engine that was made in the mid 2000s.
So, thankfully, it's not got any of the problems of, any of the modern day Telltale games, let's say. On that note, Telltale Games is coming back slowly, like, granted under a new guise, but like a whole bunch of their other games just got revived. Like, Wallace and Gromit finally got dug up. That went out of print a long time ago. Telltale Texas Hold'em came back. Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people is back on sale.
Yay!
So,
oh, on that note, something I wanted to mention: sound effects are actually shared between the Sam and Max episodes and Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people. Like that victory chime you heard in some of those episodes. You can hear them in Sam and Max as well. Like, that's something Ogre and Naka could never mention because I don't think they've ever played any of the Sam and Max series. Like, it's just the Sam and Max game. They were acquired by developer and publisher Skunkape Games. They are planning on doing all 3 episodes. I don't think there's any sort of release schedule for the Time and Space and Devil's Playhouse, though I imagine when those are ready to be released, we'll be reviewing those as well. We're pretty good friends with their PR agent. They are somebody who we have worked with for a long time. Like, trust me, getting 4 codes in this day and age is pretty hard. So, for us to get that, PC, I know, but still, that shows a level of trust, and we do thank them for their consideration. Anyway, as far as the entire package goes, yeah, it's a solid deal. I liked this back in the day. Though I am glad that Telltale tweaked the episode formula, because, yeah, the game always felt a bit creaky at 6 episodes. And I don't think the people who worked on this would necessarily disagree, because, well, once again, season 2 was 5 episodes, and that was 5, 4, something like that was your typical Telltale release. And even today, like Don't Nod, they're still releasing like 4 or 5 episode packages. New Telltale, they're actually moving away from the episodic formula, apparently, with like The Wolf Among Us season 2. But I suppose that's a thing for another day. The music, I've always liked the music in the package. Going with like the Chicken Police game we reviewed just a couple episodes ago. It's very noirish, very saxophone. It's good stuff. Especially like the opening jazz titles to each episode. Though, as far as I know, I don't think there's ever been a separate soundtrack option, at least, like, not on Steam. Or at least not until now. Like the original... Like, when the original episodes came out, having a soundtrack alongside that just really wasn't a consideration. It is now, because getting to pricing, Sam & Max Save the World is clocking in at $20, which is about what the original version, the original package cost on PC, if I'm remembering correctly. I think you could also pick up each episode individually. Like, I know for whatever reason they made episode 4 of the first season, Abe Lincoln Must Die, the showcase episode, that was available for free. Like, I don't understand why you would... Maybe they felt that was the strongest, but it's also like you're literally in the middle of the story, because these aren't standalone episodes. There's an overarching plot going on, and what happens in one episode, carries over to the next. It's not heavy continuity, but I'd say it's moderate continuity. Though it's not a really a consideration these days, since I don't think you can get the individual episodes anywhere anymore. It's just the package. So getting the package, $20, well worth it. Not sure if it's going to get a physical release down the line for the PC and or the Switch. Don't have that kind of information in front of me. The soundtrack, that is individually $9.99, and the package deal is $25.48. Sorry about that. And as usual, we would recommend picking up the bundle, since that's like 15% off. And yeah, it's like definitely a recommendation. It's a good Telltale series. It's just, I will say that Telltale went on to do much better series, both in this lineage and also other things. Like, I think my personal favorite Telltale series that I've played, there's a lot of them I missed out on. But like from this era was the Strong Bad game. Maybe I'll pick up Wallace and Gromit soon. Always wanted to do that, but I think by the time I got around to it, it had already been delisted. Anyway, but yeah, in general, I'd say 6.5 out of 10 on the arbitrary scale of arbitrary numbers. Solid release, worth picking up. Probably not going to be too much of a problem on the Nintendo Switch, but I can't really talk to how well the control scheme flowed over to there. So you'll have to do your own exploring on that particular platform. Right, so any other questions, comments, or concerns over Sam & Max Save the World here?
I think I'm good.
Oh, also worth noting that owners of Sam & Max Season 1 on Steam will get save an additional 50%, which means that'll be $9.99. Like, if you already own this package, it's a lot harder to recommend, even at $10, because, okay, you get the visual improvements, and I suppose the updated dialogue, but at the end of the day, it's still the same game. And it's really hard to justify, purchasing what is pretty much the exact same game if you already have it. I don't think there's enough done here to warrant, a full-on second purchase, even at $10 if you're already on it. If you haven't played the game, easy. Especially since you can't really, there are ways to get it. Like the Wii version was disc related. The original episodes did get physical release, that kind of thing. But you kind of have to hunt for it these days. This is the easiest, most convenient way. So yeah, I suppose that's where my overall stance on this remastered package is. All right. So I guess that'll about do it for this game review session. And indeed, that'll do it for the game reviews for the season. So coming up on the week ahead, just the Wednesday season 13 finale. On December 16th, we will be welcoming Amos Labor of Frolic Labs. They're a Canadian studio, and we'll be talking to them about Dune Sea, which is a 2D side-scrolling boat with birds. See if we can't get a code of that, because it is out. It's been out, like the PC version's been out for a year. I think it just hit the Switch. And yeah, we will also be having, I suppose, the not season finale, since we're on episode 9, episode 10 of Last News Desk on the left. I honestly don't know how Mac wants to work out seasons for Last News Desk. I don't think it's come up. Maybe we should have that discussion on Wednesday. But the point is, the last episode for Last News Desk on the left for the year is also going to be happening, because we're not going to be gathering for any regular recorded shows during the holiday season. There will be regular Final Fantasy XIV broadcasts, I believe. More on that on Wednesday. But until then, I shall wish you good gaming.